Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It's my pleasure to welcome you here in Bratislava to the opening of this high-level conference. And our ambition is to explore the role of the security sector reform in sustaining peace. We should together look at the current challenges and opportunities framing this entire process. Let me first of all share with you the remarkable journey of security sector reform concept and the involvement of Slovakia in it. I have in mind our promotion of common and coherent approaches to the security sector reform within multilateral organizations. It started over 10 years ago, in this very room. It was here where the first SSR workshop in Bratislava was held under the theme Developing a Security Sector Reform Concept for the United Nations. That workshop took place in July 2006. It brought together a wide range of multilateral organizations, similar to the gathering here today. It paved the way for discussions within the UN system on the need for a common UN approach to the security sector reform. And it also provided the foundations for Slovakia to table the security sector reform on the agenda of the UN Security Council in February 2007. And it then led to the first ever UN Security Council presidential statement on security sector reform. This presidential statement was a significant achievement. It came at a time when security sector reform was considered a sensitive topic to discuss within the United Nations. And it signaled that security sector reform was a crucial component of the UN Security Council's peace and security mandate. Testimony to the changing times. A large number of UN Security Council mandates now routinely call for the United Nations to provide the security sector reform support. Moreover, the statement was a start to many developments which followed. First, the adoption of 2 UN Secretary General reports on security sector reforms in 2008 and 2013. Then the first ever Security Council resolution on SSR, namely UN Security Council Resolution 2151 from 2014. And then the establishment of a system-wide UN Security Sector Reform Unit located within the UN Department of Peacekeeping Operations. And also the creation of the UN Group of Friends of Security Sector Reform, which is today co-chaired by Slovakia and South Africa. In parallel, Slovakia has also since supported other multilateral organizations. They were present at the Bratislava workshop, dealing with their approaches to the support for the security sector reform. And this has included, most recently, the establishment of the Group of Friends of Security Sector Governance and Reform within the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and also initiating the development of an EU-wide strategic framework to support the security sector reform. Ladies and gentlemen, more than 10 years have passed since the Bratislava conference, and I believe it is now time to review the multilateral approaches to the SSR against the backdrop of recent developments. The Sustaining Peace agenda has emerged as a new approach to preventing the outbreak, continuation, and recurrence of conflicts. Building peace should thus not be limited to post-conflict contexts and requires collective efforts in the entire peace cycle. At the same time, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has announced his intention to take forward a set of reforms aimed at revitalizing the UN's peace and security architecture. These reforms and the 2 closely interrelated agendas of sustaining peace and the Sustainable Development Goals are key. They will have broad implications for the UN's engagement in the area of peace and security. Efforts to sustain peace have gained traction at the policy level. Yet there are many challenges to their effective implementation. A report of the advisory group of experts confirms that approximately half of the conflict-specific items on the UN Security Council agenda reflect a relapse of previous cycles of violence. The recent reviews of the UN approaches to peacekeeping and peace building have also highlighted that much needs to be done to strengthen the effective delivery of support. Here, the primary responsibility for efforts to sustain peace lies with national authorities. Yet, there are increasing calls to rethink the UN and other international communities' supporting role. Even more so, as cooperation with regional and sub-regional organizations is critical to preventing the outbreak, escalation, and recurrence of conflicts. It is obvious that peace cannot exist without an effective and accountable security sector. Security sector reform plays a major role in contributing to peace sustainment. It is thus vital to start reflecting on whether multilateral organizations are effectively equipped to deliver on their SSR objectives, because it is crucial to have them fully on board towards the broader goal of sustaining peace. And this requires examining the role that security sector reform plays in peacekeeping and stabilization, prevention, and sustainable development. The development security nexus is another significant consideration for a long-lasting peace. Nowadays, the majority of ongoing conflicts are of intrastate nature, with far-reaching regional and global consequences. Such conflicts not only hinder countries' further development, they are often the result of a country's failed development policies. So effective and accountable security institutions substantially contribute to sustainable development. The 2030 Agenda also highlights the responsibility of the state to eliminate discrimination and to ensure equality and inclusiveness. And promoting gender equality is key to addressing the needs of the most vulnerable. The integration of gender issues into the SSR processes thus enhances local ownership and effective service delivery. Ladies and gentlemen, this second SSR conference is very timely. As you know, I've just recently received the trust of 193 UN member states to serve as the president of the UN General Assembly for the 72nd session. This will be the opportunity to take up the key recommendations from this and other discussions. I intend to engage multilateral organizations to better contribute to sustaining peace, with an emphasis on security sector reform. Such an approach will also be part of the UN General Assembly high-level meeting on peace building and sustaining peace, which is going to take place in New York in April 2018. In this context, I'm pleased that the permanent representative of South Africa to the United Nations, as a co-chair of the UN Group of Friends of Security Sector Reform, is here with us too. In May, South Africa and Slovakia co-hosted a high-level dialogue on global experience in security sector reform. It was followed by an event hosted by South Africa and Senegal on conflict prevention and peace sustainment. I hope the message from these events will find their way into the high-level meetings of the General Assembly I just mentioned. We will thus prepare a document summarizing the main suggestions and recommendations identified during this event. And so at this point, allow me also to thank the Geneva Center for Democratic Control of Armed Forces for their important work in supporting this event and the further process. Dear colleagues, we will start today with a high-level panel on the role of the security sector reform in sustaining peace. The panel will look into the implications of the new Sustaining Peace Agenda for multilateral organizations. The conference will follow with 3 thematic sessions. First, a session on SSR and peacekeeping and stabilization. It will reflect on whether multilateral organizations' support for the security sector reform is appropriately adapted to meet the needs of peacekeeping. The second thematic session will focus on SSR and sustainable development, examining the opportunities that the 2030 Agenda offers to revitalize the international support to security sector reform. And the third thematic session will be held tomorrow and will discuss the SSR and prevention. In particular, the key role security sector reform can play in preventing violent conflicts. Throughout the panels, we will also look into what is needed to ensure that organizations can deliver on their mandates in these related policy areas. Finally, the last session on sustaining peace through the security sector reform will be conducted as a roundtable. It will bring together representatives of multilateral organizations. They will discuss the main findings from the thematic panels and will try to identify concrete future recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like to encourage all of you to take an active role during the conference. Security sector agenda still entails a number of questions that we need to address collectively, such as what more can we do to prevent relapses of conflicts? How can we share best practices more effectively? Are multilateral organizations' capacities and approaches to SSR adapted appropriately to the sustaining peace agenda? We have ensured that there is enough time for questions and answers. I would encourage you to be open and ambitious in your questions and comments in order to make further progress in this agenda. We need to move beyond the traditional presumptions of the role of the multilateral organizations in the SSR support, because our principal mission here is to find even better ways how to promote the cause of peace through the support for the security sector reform. So I wish you fruitful discussions and enjoy your stay in Bratislava. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.